Here we are. So hello everyone and welcome back to day 4 of CIE. We are at the halfway point, so halfway finished. And yeah, so today we have our first panel called Revive Me Jett. And then at 2:30 p.m. PADT, we will have our second panel and actually our third panel, which is our game development panel featuring the Vancouver Film School faculty, and then our Sprung Studios, which is a game design studio here in Vancouver. So stay tuned for both of those. And then after that, we will have our League of Legends finals match hosted on this channel, and then our third place match hosted on CIE 2. So definitely go follow that. We're in for another day of panels and exciting plays and maybe a couple misplays, but that's okay. Without further ado, we'll get right into our Revive Me Jett panel. So today, as you can all see, I have 3 amazing guests with me today. And I'll actually get them to introduce themselves. So we'll start with you, Orbital, you've been on here quite a few times.
Yeah. My name is Orbital. I am a general caster, broadcaster, production manager, whatever you want. In esports, I do and dabble in quite a bit, including actually working with middle school and high school leagues right now, setting those up in my local area, and have had the opportunity to kind of speak with students and work with them one-on-one, as well as their beginning and entry into esports. I do a lot of casting in and around. I have cast over 30 different titles and work with different orgs around the scenes in North America as well as in Canada now a little bit, which is quite fun, and overseas as well. So get to meet a variety of people. I forgot what the extra question was. I think it was a favorite game of all time. Is that right?
Yes.
We were
Yeah,
going with.
favorite game. Oh, wait, I didn't even say that. Oh my gosh, I forgot too. So favorite game of all time, and then something you do to keep your mental health in check.
So favorite game of all time. So last time I mentioned one that I've sunk a lot of hours into, but the series, oh, this is gonna be hard actually. So I have quite a few that I've enjoyed, but I would have to say my all-time favorite that I've enjoyed more times than I can probably count is Borderlands. Just the chaos, the silly nature, and the storylines and everything. Up there was Mass Effect and all that. I'm a sucker for good stories and really long games that take like 60, 70 hours to complete and all that. But Borderlands has taken the cake for me. The other one was what do I do to take care of my mental health is I have a lot of different activities that I do outside of gaming, specifically that gets me outside of my house. I've learned that I don't do well just staying cooped up inside, so I have things such as working out, going on walks. I do kind of small street activities that I have around town, nothing crazy, but just kind of get out and about away from the computer for at least, a couple hours every so often.
Mhm. Yeah, it's definitely some breaks are super healthy. This is
Yes.
really nice. Okay, I'm gonna throw it over to you, Santiago.
Hi, I'm Santiago, otherwise known as SnoopSD1. I'm the mental health slash mental performance coach for Lotus 8 Esports. I'm also their professional EAFC player at the moment. And I also currently have my master's in clinical mental health counseling. So my kind of goal was to sort of combine those two together, those two passions of video games and mental health. And so in terms of like esports and gaming, I think I've been gaming all my life. I've been following esports since probably maybe 2011 with Call of Duty and those things. So yeah, that's pretty much me. Favorite video game of all time? I think that's a tough one, just because like I've played so many video games, but the one game that came to mind when I hear that question is specifically Need for Speed Underground 2 on the PS2 because
Hey, let's go.
I played that so much, and I didn't realize I played that so much until I think my brother got like he has a Steam Deck and he got like an emulator and like plays it on there. And I played against him and I still remember like the map and like how to go through it the most efficient way possible. And I think I've just replayed that game so many times. Somebody who struggles to focus a lot, that's one of the games where I was just like, I love it. So yeah, and in terms of mental health check-in, um, even though like I have my master's clinical mental health and everything, you know, I can't just look at my notes, but um, I also try to, you know, go to the gym, go on walks. Something that I've been trying to get into a little bit more is breath work and meditation, just because I feel like breath work and meditation just goes a long way. And it also takes a lot of practice. There's a lot of ways, there's a lot of YouTube videos out there that sort of guide you. So yeah, it's pretty much me.
Well, that's really cool. And then last but not least, it's over to you, Shaye.
Hey guys, my name is Shaye Ruecker. I'm the president of the Saskatchewan Esports Association. We're a boring nonprofit that tries to promote esports in our little province in Canada. I wanted to be on this panel because I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder 10 years ago. I was able to find treatment. I'm one of the lucky ones. And because of that, I'm a big advocate for mental health, people taking care of themselves, and really trying to promote a healthy relationship with not only video games, but any hobbies that we might have. So it's like super stoked to be here and talking about this because, yeah, it's really important to me. Um, Favorite video game. So I was on a panel 2 days ago and I said Bloodborne. I always go like favorite things or, you know, like top five of whatever, right? You can't pick your favorite kid. So I guess in mental health side of things, there's a game called Planescape Torment that came out in the 90s. And that game blows my mind with like how much they actually had like the text and dialogue in the game, especially if you said like you like Mass Effect, right, man? um, Fills a dictionary volume or a encyclopedia volume. Like it's
Oh my
huge.
gosh.
Yeah. So like that one's amazing. I'll always, you know, talk about how amazing that one is. And in terms of what I do to keep my mental health up to date and good is try to recognize whenever something bad's going to happen and coach myself into having a good out or making sure I understand that it's okay to step away from things, breathe, and center myself once again. And going through a life of being a gamer and tilting nonstop, that's even something I struggle with still. Uh, but it's always something that it's in the front of my mind.
Mhm, mhm. All right. So we'll jump straight in. So yeah, the conversation on mental health has really changed over the last 10, even 5 years. People are becoming more open about it and talking about it, which is really good. So what do you all think some of the biggest concerns are regarding mental health, um, maybe specifically with gaming, and how are those concerns kind of being addressed?
I I don't think they are being addressed is the issue, right? Like there's a lot of people who go, okay, well, there's something wrong with me, or I'm depressed, or I'm anxious, I'm getting too angry. And they're identifying that they have these emotions, but they're not taking the initiative to go out and try to better themselves because there's only so much that we can do to our friends and to our loved ones. But the onus is really the only person that can make as big of a difference is the person who's struggling with that because they're the ones that have to be the final say, and they're the ones that have to take the initiative to go, yeah, go ahead. I need to do this. But that's so much easier said than done.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to jump in on that one. I also agree that, you know, I don't think a lot of these things are being addressed. I feel like they're starting now to sort of come to the surface that, you know, mental health is important, as important as physical health, and especially in the context of gaming. Um, I don't know. I feel like there's so much opportunity out there to possibly like partner collab with mental health organizations, but that hasn't really been done either. Because I do agree, like it's up to you to kind of like take care of your mental health. Like, let's say you do go to therapy, therapist can tell you and give you all these things you can do, but at the end of the day, it's like if you're the one that takes the initiative and does it, then yeah. But like you said, easier said than done. And I feel like organizations, collegiate teams, just gaming industries in general could probably put in a little bit more effort to provide resources, or just like, for example, Lotus 8 Esports hiring me as like the mental health coach slash performance booster. Like, I think that's a big thing that's needed. So yeah.
Hmm.
I think it also has to do with the fact that we are, just now starting to normalize the idea of mental health. Even though it's been talked about for ages, there have been difficulties really bringing it to the forefront without someone trying to shut it down. I think it was like 5, 6 years ago, you'd be talking about, mental health, trying to learn about all that stuff. And someone's like, that's not real, or, it's all in your mind. You just need to go out and work more. Or you just need to go do this and that and that. And just it felt very brushed off. And it's not just willingly kind of telling yourself, yeah, something's wrong with me, but also admitting that this, it might not be the norm, but it's something that you need help with. And all of us here can kind of agree that, we have to do it for ourselves, but to go against the grain and actually almost have to admit that something's wrong and to realize it's not bad to have to say that, we want to be better or anything like that, and just kind of taking that first step forward, you're going to get a lot of kickback and realizing that. And just as much as we're individually trying to do that, the hope is that the worldwide view of mental health continues to be normalized and continue to find help without, putting stigmas or any of that, kind of, I I want to say outdated theories as just like, just looking down on it kind of thing. Being a little bit more accepting that, some of these illnesses sometimes don't manifest in physical form. You have to kind of be working on it, all the time, and be accepting of anyone that reaches out for help.
Hmm. Yeah, it sounded like there are still quite a few barriers that people have to overcome. Um, I guess, what do you all see in the future, or hope for in the future, I guess, when it comes to barriers and accessibility, and even just starting a conversation um, about mental health and talking about it?
Mm. It's okay if I take a stab at this one real quick.
Go nuts, man.
um, Coming from someone that doesn't really have any background specifically. Like, I love psychology in the past, but I don't have, the medical know-how or the degrees. So I want to preface anything that I say starting with that. But my hope is that even at a ground level, like, I've worked with middle school and high school kids, and I see kind of what they go through. And, even in esports still, like, it's becoming more common to have people, a little bit more, active and talking about it, but still, a little bit pushed off to the side. So I really hope in the next few years we see more open discussions and more willingness of acceptance. It's very hard to change perspectives of those maybe in the older generations, or even myself. I'm 31 right now and still trying to unlearn a lot of the things I learned 5, 6 years ago when I was growing up. With all the new research coming out, it's, being willing to understand, hey, for some of us that are older, hey, we were wrong about certain things, and how do we help kind of correct these things for the younger generations and those coming after us to have, maybe a better time or easier time with learning about their own mental illnesses and how to kind of get help for that.
Mhm.
That's I'm glad you spoke first on that, because that kind of leads up to something I can talk to. So I am like a boomer compared to you guys. Like, I've got a few more years under my belts, and growing up in the 90s, even, like, that's not that far away. But the, like, rampant hatred and like homophobia was like a big thing, and the amount that changed over the course of like a decade is amazing. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future for like resources on mental health, but I've seen so much change just now from everything on a social standpoint, more acceptance happening, and I fervently believe that that's just going to exponentially grow. You didn't talk about mental health back then, even in the 90s or early 2000s, anything like that. And just the fact that it's part of a discussion now. And when you say to your friends, like, hey, I'm not feeling right, I need someone to talk to, it's so encouraged. And I love seeing that. It's a beautiful thing that that friend's not going to go, okay, cool, let's play another round. Instead, like, let's go into a separate channel, man. Like, let's talk about this. This is important that we have that discussion. And it only helps your individual social, relationships, but it also helps everyone else, right? As society as a whole.
Mhm. Yeah, it's really good to see that it's opened up and things are changing, and we're maybe it doesn't feel like we're progressing, but we definitely are, especially when you take that kind of zoomed out look. Um, So we'll move into kind of our next section, and we'll kind of tackle the how do we help fix it kind of portion of this. So I guess some of you, all of you, probably have had instances where you have toxic teammates and you're tilt queuing or something like that. Um, how would you advise someone to kind of combat that and maybe not take it out of the game and have it affect the rest of their personal life?
Mm. Ooh. Oh boy, I don't think anyone wants to touch this one just yet. I'm sure we're
No,
just gonna wait
I
for them
got
to do
that. I
that.
think I think one of the things that's like a major contributor to this is just the way games are designed. So like I played World of Warcraft since day one. And in the first few years of World of Warcraft, nobody knew what the hell was going on. We didn't have add-ons or, like crazy internet videos where they're dissecting every single thing. And you just played, and it was so cool because you would like explore this world with other people, and it didn't matter if you didn't do DPS or you weren't doing the right job. Like everyone could do anything, and you were struggling through things all together. Now you fast forward to when they re-released the game as classic, and everyone has hyper optimized that game. Everyone is so toxic and like min-maxing, and if you're not up to snuff like 100%, then you won't get invited to groups. You're going to get yelled at for making the smallest mistake, even if it is a mistake. And things like that are because they're incentivizing like optimal play, or else you miss out on stuff that they've added into the game, or you miss out on doing your weekly lockouts and everything like that. And that's unfortunately something that has to happen on the developer side of things. And I'm not sure that is something that could happen right away. So anything that we want to do has to happen on an individual level or the level of people that are going to play the game to go, hey, that dude's being really toxic. Maybe we should try to have fun as a group. And what I've found is in a lot of cases, that has to be in a closed circuit group of people that you trust. Um, it's probably going to be a long time before at least the majority of games have more welcoming non-toxic environments. Like I know there's a lot of games that are kicking people or punishing people for being just the worst, but it's not every game.
And it's not a perfect system either. A lot of
Yeah,
automated bans and all of that. Mhm.
yeah. Snoop, anything to add on?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I kind of want to give a perspective from like higher level gameplay, just because, like I said, I'm the EAFC pro for Lotus 8 Esports, so when you're playing at a competitive level, a lot of people can beat you. Like it's you're really good at the game, but you're also facing people that are also really good, so you're going to lose. Like accepting the fact that you will lose and you will make mistakes kind of helps me overcome the tilt, because a lot of tilt queuing kind of stems from poor performance or toxic teammates. For example, in Rocket League, um, I'll have toxic teammates if it's 0-0 and I make one mistake. And I think that's something that's like, it's really, really, really frustrating, just because a lot of people playing some of these games at a higher level expect everyone else to be like near perfect, even though nobody in there is even near perfect. Even players at the professional level make mistakes too, is what people forget. And so, kind of just remembering sort of those things and accepting that's going to happen helps me overcome it. And then also, taking breaks is good. I know the famous can't leave on a loss. You know, I still do that to this day, but
You can't cash out till you make your money back, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
That
sometimes
hits a little bit too close to home, man. Don't you can't do that to me.
because sometimes it could help. Like, okay, you got your win, you feel good, but sometimes you just keep losing, and it just makes things worse. But knowing when to take a break is definitely another thing I feel like will help you overcome that. Like I mentioned, um, mental health and physical health is important, right? So mentally, sometimes I like to just literally just breathe. And then physically, you know, if we're playing video games, you're using your hands a lot. So sometimes even just like stretching your hands and doing certain exercises can help you, because a lot of those nerves are connected to different parts of your body that also contribute to your overall mental well-being. So just, you know, finding what works with you, what works for you when you're all tilting, I think is probably the best way to approach it.
I think the one thing that I forgot to mention, I was thinking about this today, is like most of the toxicity happens at the mid range, right? At the top level, these guys have transcended that, like just getting angry at things because they know that they need to perform at a very like not passive, but like at a level where they're neutral. They've transcended the like mental game that's giving them issues on that, and they know that's not productive for them doing well. And it's the people in like the mid range. And that's where I usually am, right? I'm usually in the mid or like the high end of the mid range where everyone thinks that they're gods and they're amazing at the game and it's your problem. And how dare you, man? You're wasting my time. But what I've actually found that I love doing is stepping back, not doing the top tier stuff, and like finding four friends that have never played the game before and are like, "Hey, we're trying this out." I'm like, "Cool, let me Sherpa you. Let me like bring you to the game. Let's have fun." And like if you die and if I die more or if my Katie's down, whatever it is, like they're always having fun. They die and they're like, "Ha, I'll try better next time." And that blows my mind that we could have people play video games that can actually say that. That's so cool.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of good options, but at the end of the day, it's really what makes you feel more comfortable. I think it sometimes boils down into I feel uncomfortable with this situation, or there are some times where also if you're new into what is obviously like 90% of esports right now is competitive gaming, you're walking into a world that is pitting you against other people, and you might not realize that. Uh, Recognizing that you're in a competitive environment already, you have to recognize that some of those things are going on. And if you're not super excited about that, absolutely grab a couple of friends, or if you're more comfortable just taking a whole different route, find a different hobby outside as well. For me personally, I played League since season 3, and we're now on season 14. Tried to run my own team and everything like that. I've tried to run all that stuff. I've literally had a sponsor after me, and I full on for like a year was doing all that. And my mental health, I didn't realize how bad it was until I'll be honest, I've had 4 accounts banned on League for toxicity. It was not good. It was not a healthy moment. And I had to take a step back and just like I can't even play with friends. I'm getting tilted out of my mind and all that. I found a fully separate hobby. I went the other direction. I said, "Okay, my comfort level is not at my computer right now." So really it's what are you comfortable with? If you're comfortable playing these games and just putting, mute all, it's a good step forward. And granted, there are better ways to do it. But at the end of the day, if you are comfortable with how this kind of reset in the brain is, and as long as it's a healthy way, I say, I say go for it and take those steps forward. It's recognizing that you're in an uncomfortable spot and being able to kind of work your way from there.
You said mute all. Like, was that in like a bad context, or do you feel like that's beneficial? Because I
Um,
find myself doing that more and more. Is just I'm not looking at chat. I don't care if that like affects our
so
group things.
Yeah, so the main reason I say that is in competitive, there can be a lot of static noise, and for me personally, I look at a lot of these conversations as, is it actually directed at me? Is the same way I look at a lot of personal interactions is, what are they actually upset about? Are they upset at me, or are they upset at the situation, or are they upset at something else? Because and this is getting into a lot of other stuff, I think, which is there can almost be I don't know what the term is, but they kind of
Projecting?
overlap. Huh?
Projecting?
Maybe not
Okay,
just
sorry.
projecting, but it's like they take something else that's going on in their life, or another situation that's occurring, and their outlet is maybe this game or something like that. And I sit there and I'm like, I can't determine that. For me personally, I can't determine that unless I'm actually sitting there face to face with the person. So for me, it's a lot more of my I can't sit here and be like, I'm upset at you or something like that. So for me, it's more like, okay, you're having a bad day. I just let you do your thing. I'll focus on me. And if that is a mute all, at that point, it just helps me focus on the front we're facing. It might not be the most optimal, but of course, as you mentioned before, developers don't exactly make it super friendly sometimes. So what can I still control in that gaming environment? Which to me is, I don't have to look at that at the end of the day. And so for me, I don't want to lash out at anyone, and I don't want to make anyone's day worse. So for me, it's just, kind of just calm down. I go ahead, do my own thing, they do theirs, and hopefully their day gets better from there.
I like the like adage of, I'm sorry, Jenna. We might want to like push into other questions or whatever.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. I keep
Monopolizing.
going.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's the adage of like treat people like they're having the worst day of their life. And that kind of like just extends to being a little more kind to people. Like I was playing WoW with some friends, and I'm at a higher level than they are and stuff, and they were kind of like approaching my type of stuff and maybe getting a little bit ego on that side of things. We had a dude join our group who was just awful, hitting the wrong buttons, and he had the wrong gear on, and just he obviously didn't know how to play. And their first reaction was to be like, why aren't you doing this, blah blah blah, just getting accusatory. And then I look and I'm, hey, that dude's new, like he's not doing this to troll anyone.
Yep.
And I guess this kind of goes back to like, how can the community do things, right? So I just said to my friends, like, hey guys, like, be nice. We need to actually approach this from helping someone out, because they're not doing things maliciously, right? Like, it's Hanlon's razor, which is never attribute malice to what's more than likely a mistake or incompetence or whatever it is, right? And they like step back and they were like, okay, yeah, you're right. Like, we kind of feel bad about it. Talked to the dude after, and I was like, hey, sorry, we're doing this. Let me help you out. Let's group with you more. And then we just made a new friend that way, instead of yelling at this dude, never talk to him again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to just add on some things there. In Rocket League, what I like to do, which I didn't always do for context in the Rocket League, if you get banned, it's usually like first offense would be like a day, next time would be like 3 days, and then the third time's a week, and then the fourth time's like a month. If I get banned again, I would be banned for a month. Let's just say that.
Oh wow.
So I've also, had my phases of toxicity and things like that, but something switched in me where I would just like kill him with kindness, just because like a teammate would mess up and I wouldn't be like, oh, you're garbage. No, I just be like, that's all good. We're still in it. Like we got this. Like just positive sort of motivation usually helps. Sometimes, people are not going to reciprocate that, but that's when you hit that mute button. If they're not going to reciprocate it, you just try not to really entertain it and fall into that toxicity. And then sometimes people are just having really bad days and they just project it onto you just the second they get a chance to let that anger out or something through something else. They'll let it out on you. And yeah, I mean, I kind of had some other stuff to say, but it'll come back later.
No worries. That's all like really good to know, and there's many ways to deal with it, and it does sound like it depends on find out what fits you best. Um, I guess, are there any resources out there that people can reach out to and try to find a little bit more, and I guess without maybe especially because a lot of people are tuning in are probably students without kind of busting the bank on full-on therapy or something like that. Like place where students can go just to maybe find resources or to find people to chat with.
I think you got to be careful with stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of people who are like self-help, or I'm not going to name anyone, but how many gurus are out there trying to promote their BS and promoting actual toxicity within certain demographics and groups. It's so easy to jump on bandwagons of people who just have like this amazingly charismatic personality and they have all the answers and they do things like that. um so any kind of resources, they might be muddled. I think the best thing that you could possibly do, and that's things that are close to you, is reaching out to friends and family and having people that you can talk to in your circle. I think that those are probably going to be the best, most impactful um, types of people that you can reach out to for resources. Other than that, in terms of like really heavy duty stuff, like if you were in a very dark place and you were at risk of hurting yourself or others or anything like that, there are kids help phones, there are suicide like hotlines everywhere, and like use those. Don't let that be like a last resort, is just to skip past those, right? Like there are so many volunteers, wonderful people that are working at organizations like that that want to help, and they will help.
Um, so I guess what resources would be available? I agree, like, people close to you and family and friends, especially if, they're also gamers, because a lot of times, like, I know sometimes people are like, oh, gamers are like very introverted, but like if you meet somebody who likes the same game that you're passionate about, you guys almost instantly become like besties because you guys understand like the love for this game. Um, I also feel there's a lot of Discord servers out there. Also, be careful with that as well, though, just because some people can be really toxic and everything. But there are Discord servers that are supposed to be like safe spaces. For example, like Healthy Gamer GG. Like I'm pretty sure his Discord has a lot of like free resources and like people you can talk to. Um, and then also just in terms of like mental health, right? Let's say maybe you don't have access to a therapist or anything, there's sometimes a lot of like free online virtual like self-help groups that you can join. So sometimes finding those and talking with other people that are struggling with similar things can help. um but yeah, I mean, there should be more resources out there, but that's all I can think of for now.
Mhm. Yeah, I think for
I
anyone
think
also. Oh, go for it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just talking about the healthy GG thing. Like it's cool that he also talks to a lot of streamers and content creators and people that are like high profile, that you could be like, okay, cool. Like I've watched this guy. I kind of see and I can relate. And since you have such a big window into these guys or gals, like lives, and you see their personality all the time, like that's cool, and that could really affect you. The one thing that I've seen too, and some people kind of get upset about it, and there's a debate kind of going on around there, but going into like a streamer's chats and saying like, hey, I need help, that's often not the best thing to do, right? Because it's a different situation. You might end up with like a very negative response to something like that. And um people developing these parasocial relationships can be negative, especially if you try to have them engage with you in something that's so important. Um, like you try to reach out to your friends. That's going back to that too. But be careful about like trying to involve like a whole stream doing something like that.
Yeah, I
Um,
kind of, oh, sorry if I cut
no, it's
somebody
okay.
off.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, because you brought that up, um I stream from here and there, but there was a point in time where I was streaming Rocket League for a while, and it was also based around mental health. And there were times where some people would come into the chat and try to like ask me directly for help. But what I would do is always had like a disclaimer, kind of like, yeah, this is a safe space, but I cannot provide like professional help, even though I have my master's, I have my bachelor's, I'm soon to be licensed as a professional counselor. It's not professional. Like I can't just have a session full on. It's like, it's not how it works. But what I try to do is provide resources they can reach out to try to find professional help and sort of redirect them, and not just sort of just completely deny and just be like, no, we can't talk about that. More of just kind of like, hey, like, you know, I understand you're going through this and that, but one, it could also be a sensitive topic, right? Because some of these mental health topics can be very triggering as well, especially on the stream. So, just kind of knowing to redirect that and kind of like redefining what mental health like resources and help looks like, rather than, hey, I'm just going to talk to somebody who has, mental health experience in a stream, versus let me do some research and see if there's any local or online resources I can reach out to, which some people might not know. So that's why I just got to remind them or provide them resources or redirect them.
Mhm. Yeah, I think definitely it's reach out, but politely reach out appropriately when the time is and all of that, because it's respecting, again, if you're a streamer, like the streamer and the other people in chat. Okay, so if very good, we will move on to another question. So we talk a lot about kind of protecting ourselves from the bad vibes out there, but kind of on the flip side, if anyone wants to talk about it, what are some of the good things that gaming and esports provide that maybe can be overlooked by the stereotypes or all of the negativity that sometimes we incur?
I think there's quite a few things, but I mean, if you want to get the base ground, it's not so different than your traditional sports, in my opinion. Getting to work in the middle school and high school and seeing where esports and collegiate and everything is starting to go out from, we you can't sit here and just say it's a whole new thing. This is a world that I'm scared for my kid. No, it's just another competition out there at the end of the day. The reason that it feels so different is, of course, you don't see them on a football field or on a soccer field or anything like that. So these are still kids competing at its most basic level. At the same time, of course, these kids have vastly different, I would say, vastly different social kind of conceptions and everything like that, and understandings of social situations. And that's one of the big challenges. But gaming itself, in my opinion, helps a lot with that. The spaces that you can grow in, as we mentioned, these discords, these groups, competitive areas, middle school, high school leagues now. You're starting to connect with people that have the same interests as you that might have in the past been a lot more difficult to connect with. You're able to kind of meet like-minded people as well that want to communicate, want to compete alongside you if you're competing, of course, or if you're just looking to, have a little bit of fun. There are community groups now in schools and just about everywhere else that lets you connect more than, you probably thought, where in the past it used to have to be, if you can only look local. That was your one choice. It was local back in the day, and now it's can be anywhere. You can be in one state or one country and look somewhere else and find like-minded people. So the benefits, I would say, is you have a much wider net now with esports to connect with people that are like-minded. You can find your group that way, instead of maybe sometimes feeling a little bit ostracized within communities and items like that. So a little bit more free range opportunity, of course, with exceptions out there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned the like-minded people part, because I feel like in my experience, as for example, when I was in college, I'm playing a lot of Rocket League. I was doing some research, like, if there was some esports club out there, and there was specifically like a Rocket League group, and that was maybe around 2018. And now, like, I'm on a separate Discord with a bunch of friends that I made from that club, and like we're still in touch and everything, and like it feels like a very safe space, where people just can kind of be themselves. And then also, I feel like another overlooked, I feel like benefit of gaming that people don't realize is, like, when you think of gaming, a lot of people, I mean, nowadays sort of think of online gaming. But there's also, some offline games that you can play by yourself that can be very therapeutic, like um just it's gonna sound weird, but for me, I really enjoy horror games. I don't know why. I don't know why I enjoy horror games so much, but for me sometimes it's just I don't know. I think it's the adrenaline probably that gets to me, but that's something that's kind of makes me a little bit more like, all right, I'm having fun. There's no toxicity. All I'm doing is trying to survive whatever's hunting me down in the game.
I'm thousands of hours into Souls games, man, and I get that.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
as tilting as that could be, and this isn't the same for everyone, right? Like, I find it zen when I'm doing something and I know it's my fault, even if it's Tekken and I'm against a dude who's being really cheap, right? Like,
yeah,
that's easier for me to go, okay, cool. Like, that's a relaxing way to be like that, and that's just a frame of mind that you have to kind of set for yourself, right?
yeah.
Um,
That
I
comfort games really.
well, yeah, even if it's not a comfortable game at all, right?
Yeah.
It's funny you say horror games too, right? Um, what I'm thinking on that is like, as much as we players, gamers, the communities could be so toxic and the problem, we could also be the solution. And that kind of starts with you making that decision of being like, I'm not gonna go grind and try to like rank up today. I'm gonna go on Reddit or I'm gonna go on a Discord. I'm gonna find someone being like, "Hey, I'm struggling with this, or can you teach me how to use X character or whatever?" And like take that time to do that because you're gonna feel great that you've kind of elevated someone else there and you become the great thing about games. And that's the best part is like we have such a great opportunity to be social and we're not taking advantage of it as much as we should be. But like anyone out there, like go do that. Go make friends with someone who might, just need a friend, right? That's you could be the good thing.
Hmm. Definitely, it's it's all a process, and there are different outlets we can all have. Um, so we are almost at the end, so we probably have time for one more question. Um, hmm, actually, kind of run out most of the questions. We kind of blazed through a lot of them and touched on already. I guess how has each of your journey been kind of finding the right balance for yourself, or even if you haven't found that right balance, like how that process has been? Because I know a lot of people don't really know where to start, and it feels really it can feel really overwhelming because you may know you need to fix something, but where to start, who knows? But yeah.
Mm,
I can start on that.
sure.
uh, so 10 years ago, I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder. For anyone who doesn't know, it's a elevated level of elation as well as like a very low depression, and it's a chemical imbalance in the brain that really messes you up. I struggled with it my whole life, even as a kid. And when I was a kid, it was just being a hyperactive or a moody kid. And then when I was a teenager, it's like, oh, that's hormones, right? That's everything that's messing you up that way. As soon as I got to adulthood and that started affecting every single thing in my life, work, relationships, anything, um, I took a step back and I'm like, okay, this all of a sudden isn't normal. This isn't part of growing up. And the most important thing I did, and it was very difficult to do, was ask for help. I called a suicide hotline and I said, "Hey, like I'm in a real rough way." And in Canada, we as much as it's difficult to kind of get into the system, I got into the system. It took a long time. It was something I had to like independently go, I'm working on this, right? And I was one of the lucky ones. I was able to go through the system, talk to someone. It took a few years before they were like, okay, we think this is what's wrong with you. Um, but it all started with making that phone call, reaching out, asking for help, and taking that initiative yourself. And again, like as I said, right, it's like it's easier said than done. And I wish there was like an answer that I had for other people too. I guess the only thing I could say to that is like, you can, anyone who's watching this, anyone who's reading anything like this, if you're in a bad place and you need help, you can do it. Not going to tell you how because I don't know, but like you 100% can do it.
Snoop, you got anything before I go on a tangent and a half? I did
Okay,
this last time on a panel, and I think I went on like a
cool.
5-minute tangent. It was terrible.
No, I think it
Okay.
was only like
I
2
wanted to get it
minutes.
out there too, just in case anyone wanted to go nuts.
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like for me in my journey, like growing up, there was a lot of mental health stigma. Growing up, I was always called the sensitive kid. I still remember playing like FIFA 11, 2011 or whatever, and like I would lose a match, and like I'd be crying and like squeezing my remote, and like that was not good at all. But back then, I was like, oh, I was just a little kid. I was just frustrated, whatever. But then growing up, I started realizing how much my outside life can affect my gaming performance and things like that, how much I enjoy it. Like anxiety was really a big thing, specifically just like performance anxiety. So maybe if I was in a tournament or maybe even if I'm just playing ranked, I just feel like I had so much pressure on myself to just do well. And then with depression, I feel like it took away the energy I have to play certain video games and things like that as well. So that's when I sort of realized like, okay, like I need to seek help. And for me, it's kind of hard for me to seek help, um, especially coming from background of like being having Mexican parents that immigrated from Mexico. We kind of just it was just sort of toughing things out, kind of just like it's like, all right, like you have depression, well, just don't have it. Like it was just a lot of stigma.
It's
Yeah.
always that dang phone. It's
Yep.
always that dang phone over there.
Yep. Exactly. So now everything is a bit different. Now I've been able to educate my parents on a lot of these mental health topics, and they're able to understand. And it also opened up, like an opportunity for themselves to think about and reflect on their mental health. So, you know, another sort of motivator really is like, yeah, you can help yourself, and it's possible, like you said. But it can also be inspirational for other people too. They'll see and they'll be like, hey, like they were in a similar position I was, or you might see somebody who was in a similar position you were, and they were able to overcome it. So you become like another sort of inspirational success story, um, that might inspire others to be like, okay, I'm going to seek help. But there are limitations, such as like you said in Canada, right? Getting into the system is tough. In the US, also, it's really tough. Like my insurance is really limited, and it took me almost like a year to find
And
a
if you don't have
therapist.
insurance too, like that's rough. I feel
Exactly.
so bad for anyone going through that down there.
Yeah, if because then you have to pay out of pocket, and then it's really expensive. So I was lucky enough to find a therapist. I think they were intern as well, so it was limited. But I was like, I just found somebody at least. And as somebody who was an intern therapist, I was like, this is fine for me because I was able to do it for others. So I'm sure they would be able to do it for me too. So yeah, that's kind of been my journey. And now that, my mental health has improved, I've noticed that my gaming habits have improved and the amount of games I play. Because I'm sure we all have our gaming libraries full of games we haven't touched and we just got them on sale. Um, Now I'm touching a lot of those games and trying to play some more and diversify a little bit, to not just stay at a competitive mindset and just like my mom always tells me this before tournaments, and my friend always tells me this too, is like, don't forget to have fun. Like at the end of the day, when you're gaming, just don't forget to have fun. That's like kind of why we started playing games, because it's fun. And so sometimes we reach a point where we forget about that part. And so reminding yourself that it's also just to enjoy, just having the enjoyment of gaming it could go a long way.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll kind of chime in here because I'll be quite honest. I've never been diagnosed with anything, but I'm sure something is slightly messed up in my head. It's somewhere in there. But one of the big things I've learned is it your inspiration doesn't always have to be, it has to be positive. One of the big things for me is I don't know if it's just me or anything like that, but for me it was I was going down a very deep spiral. I didn't know what was going on. I still had, my cover on, and no one really saw it. I still did my usual daily activities, but it was just there was one point where I was just like, I don't like what's going on, really. It was just kind of that moment, and I still didn't know how to take care of it, but I took one step. You fix one thing, and it was a small thing. It was like, what was it? It was quite literally, don't sit in my car for 45 minutes after work or something like that. Get out, keep moving. Basically, just like, don't sit and stew for too long. Move, do something. And it wasn't this really positive thing. Everyone frames it like it has to be positive, but it was quite literally move, like a physical tone in my head, just move. And that itself might not seem like a whole lot, but looking back, it was, it's a small steps that really is there. On a mental health journey, in my opinion, we also tend to forget to see how far we've come. Whenever we move forward, we're always looking at trying to get better and all that. But it does, I think, very important to also look back and see how far you've come. And your length of time of how long you've been on the journey might not be the same as someone else's. Yours might be centimeters. It might be millimeters of movement forward, and it might take years. It might take, decades or whatever. It doesn't matter. You're taking those steps. For me, it took. I'm still working through it, of course. I would say, sometimes I fall back into that spiral. Oh man, I still got to go do laundry or something like that. I forget about it, or these little things here and there. But it doesn't have to be glamorous. It doesn't have to be, oh, I have to reach out. It could quite literally be as small as keep getting up in the morning, go take a shower, go brush my teeth. Those you got to look at and consider wins. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. Maybe have a goal at the end of the day. Hey, I want to be able to do this. Hey, I want to be able to do that. Like my favorite soccer player. Oh, I want to go play soccer with a couple people later. Take the first steps, and don't ever feel like you have to sprint. A slow walk, a gentle jog, whatever works for you.
If you want to play soccer, like go kick a ball around with your friend, right? And then you have someone to talk to, and like small things. I love that.
Yeah, just get up, do the small steps. You will be surprised at how quickly they add up.
Yep.
And just, even if you're alone, even if you feel like you got nothing in the world, just take the small steps. And help me, and I'm sure it helps other people. And again, it's to everyone, each their own. But I think that's so important to not forget.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that basically takes us to the end of our panel. We're almost at 2 p.m., or I guess if you're in the East, it's almost 5 p.m. Um, yeah, it really sounds like the message is talk about it, take the small steps, and really enjoy the small victories, because we don't have to always be some big, grand whatever. Um, but yeah, so thank you, Orbital, Santiago, and Shaye for joining us for the hour and having this conversation. And I hope it does help someone watching to kind of do reach out to someone, a mental health professional. If you're struggling, definitely like check out those resources and hotlines that are always available. Yeah, so thank you for being here and speaking, and thank you for the audience for watching and tuning in. And also thank you to our amazing sponsors, BMO and TELUS. Without them, we wouldn't be able to put on CIE again this year. Their help was much appreciated this year. So check out BMO for the best student banking plans, and go check out TELUS and TELUS Arena actually for some really cool gaming opportunities and really good internet and Wi-Fi packages. So up next, we do have the research motion design. I have that backwards. Up next, we have the Crafting Competitive Excellence. So we have our Vancouver Film School faculty joining us here. And then starting on the second channel, so CIE2, we have the Sprung Studios panel where they'll be talking about research, motion design, UX, UI design, and productions in games. And that is featured with Sprung Studios. And then later, probably about 4 p.m. PST and 7 p.m. EST, we have our League of Legends finals on the main channel and our League of Legends third place on the second channel. So stay tuned, and we will see you later.
Thank you very much, guys.